I was a medical doctor for nearly 30 years, highly trained, experienced, trusted, and yet there were days I would sit across from a patient and feel more exhausted, more anxious, more disconnected than they were. Patients would look at me and ask, "What do you think I should do?" And something inside me began to fracture because the truth was the system I was trained in only had temporary answers. We could manage symptoms, we could label conditions, call it diagnosis, we could offer protocols based on evidence. But deep down, I knew we doctors weren't actually teaching people how to heal. And here's the part I didn't want to admit. We were asking people to buy into a story about their bodies that we didn't even fully comprehend ourselves. I started spiraling internally, not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. I began overthinking everything. The diagnoses were often just labels. The language that we used was full of big words that rolled off my tongue because it had been drilled into me by those professors. The trauma of those tute rounds in white coats in the hospital. Yet those same words kept reinforcing the pedestal that my patients placed me on. And that pedestal made me deeply uncomfortable because inside I knew we were far more similar than different. The way we explained disease as broken, faulty, or inevitable, or irreparable kept people believing something was wrong with them, when so often all they really needed was to be listened to, reassured, and supported back to the level of functioning that they had before they walked into my room or before they conceived themselves to have something wrong with them. So scientifically, we were meant to sound certain, but privately, I knew how often doctors don't actually know what's really going on. Idiopathic, that means we don't know. I translate it as doctors are idiots. But anyway, that was the real sticking point for me. I wasn't struggling because medicine was wrong. I was struggling because it was incomplete. We were treating bodies like machines while ignoring the nervous system, the emotional load, the identity patterns, and the survival responses which were driving those symptoms. And what troubled me most was this: a vulnerable human man or woman had chosen to trust me with their body, their fear, their uncertainty. Yet I didn't fully trust myself within the system that I'd been trained in. So how could I offer certainty when I felt misaligned inside the very paradigm that I was working within? And then came the epiphany that changed everything. People weren't sick because they were broken. They were dysregulated because they had been taught to outsource their authority, including that over their bodies. That's when I realized something fundamental. Healing doesn't come from more control. It comes from restoring self-trust and nervous system safety inside your system. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. That's what led me to step outside the traditional model. And I learnt lots to try and stay within the system, but it was all just different flavors with different labels. So I developed this model that I now use to support the work that I do today, helping high-performing, intelligent people stop outsourcing their healing and finally feel at home in themselves again.